Alright, what's good everyone? In this video, I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Z Fold 5 and the OnePlus Open, but this comparison is going to be focused on multitasking. To start the video, I'm going to focus on the outside screens first, and then I'll get to the inner screens. So let's start with the Z Fold 5. So with the Z Fold 5, your basic multitasking starts from the task switcher. So when you're here, you can tap each app icon and then choose to open split screen or pop-up view. And then you can also tap the app itself and drag and drop into split screen or pop-up view, just like that. And then you have the edge panel where you can set up your apps that you want there, and you can basically do the same thing. So you can drag and drop into split screen or pop-up view, and then you can also set it so that when you tap the app, it will just open in split screen by default. So the first app will open full screen, then I tap the next one and it's in split screen. So that's a nice feature that I like with the edge panel. I use this pretty much every single day that I use this phone. And then with the floating windows, the pop-up view, I use this also every day. I'll, just drag a app, use it quickly, and then either you minimize it, expand it, or just dismiss it altogether. And then if you are using two hands, sometimes I'd be typing like this with the Z Fold 5 on the outside screen. If you're using two hands, then you can also swipe up with two fingers from the bottom and enter split screen like that. Sometimes I use that if I just, I'm in the middle of doing something and I need to open another app real quick. I will swipe up from the bottom, open another app, and then get back to business. So there's also that. So that's basically multitasking on the Z Fold 5 on the outside screen. So now I'll go back to the OnePlus Open. OnePlus Open basically has the same feature set, but it's slightly different. So I'll get more into that later on. But for now, let's just cover the basics. So you can swipe up into your task switcher, and then you can choose split screen, and that's it for multitasking. So split screen. But the one thing I like with this split screen, when you choose it, is that it brings you to your home screen or your app drawer. So you can, select your app that you want to split next. I feel like that's a pretty decent way of doing it. And then when you're in split screen, you can do the same things on the Z Fold 5. You can swap, and you can also save it as a group in your home screen. And then there's also the edge panel, or I forget what OnePlus calls it, but they also have something similar. You can move it around from side to side. Basically, when you use this edge panel right here, it mainly opens the apps in floating windows. So you tap it, it will open in floating windows like that. Then you tap to close. And yeah, that's basically what this edge panel is for. But you can also tap and hold and drag it into a split screen as well. So you do that, and then it will allow you to open another app the same way. So that's pretty cool. So the only thing I don't like about this edge panel versus Samsung's is that you cannot move it down. Like, it's always here at the top. So my thumb is literally cramping right now trying to do this with one hand. So that's something I don't like about this edge panel. On my Z Fold 5, I have it in the sweet spot where I know I can just grab it easily with my thumb. And then when it comes to entering split screen with gestures, you actually can't even do these gestures, to my knowledge, on the outside screen with this phone. So there's that. On the Z Fold 5, you can use the same swipe gestures that you have on the inside screen and enter split screen. So there's that. So yeah, that's basically how multitasking works on the outside screen for both of these devices. So now we're going to open up and cover the inside, which is the reason why you're buying these devices in the first place. All right, so this time I'll start with the OnePlus Open. So with the OnePlus Open, it's the same split screens that you would expect on these big foldable display phones. So you can drag and drop from the edge panel, and then there's also the taskbar that you can tap and hold to make it disappear, and then you can drag and drop apps. And then another way to get into split screen is by swiping down, and it basically cuts a line in half with the app, and then you can choose whatever app you want. So boom, now I have side-by-side split screen, and you can only do that in one direction, so only from the top. And I'll show you on the Z Fold 5, it's a little bit different. I feel like more flexibility. So there's that. And also with the OnePlus Open, when you're dragging and dropping into split screen, you cannot start split screen in top and bottom view. You can only do it in horizontal. So I'll show you. It only goes like this. I try to put it at the bottom. It does not work. It has to go side by side. So that's something that I do not like on this version of multitasking. So OnePlus Open can also do 3 apps just like the Z Fold 5, but it's a little bit different. It has something called canvas mode or whatever, and it basically allows you to jump back and forth between these apps. So yeah, and then you can, with this canvas, you can expand the apps. Oh my, see, I just deleted something right there. Swap sides. So you can tap the top of the app and expand them. So you have full screen for all the apps. So basically now all these apps are running in full screen and you can tap back and forth between them. It's a pretty cool system. It's definitely innovative. It's something we haven't seen before on a folding phone. And yeah, it works decently well. If you pinch the zoom, it will show you all the apps and you can interact with all of them at the same time. So that's pretty cool. And then you zoom back in and you're good to go. And then from here you can shrink apps. You can switch them like with another app from your app tray. Then you can also full screen the app or you can close it. So when it comes to resizing, let's say I delete this one and I only have 2 apps, you can you can't really like resize it like how you would on the Z Fold 5 when they're side by side. It's kind of just preset lengths like you would on the iPad. And then a lot of other Chinese phones, this is technically made by a Chinese company, they don't allow you to do top and bottom split screen, but on this phone you can do that, which is really good, just like the Z Fold 5. And yeah, of course with the canvas mode you can still do like 3 apps at the same time with this kind of orientation. So let's say I'm playing a game at the bottom and I'm watching YouTube at the top, then I can still have something on the side that's fully interactive. That's pretty cool. And yeah, the functionality is there. I think it's a really innovative idea and hopefully they keep developing it and make it more smoother. And then you can also grab this and drag it to move it around, I guess, if you want, or open it in a floating window. So that's not too bad. I feel like it's a pretty cool way of doing split screen on a foldable phone. So now let's talk about floating windows. So the reason why I said I want to talk a little bit more about how they worked is because it's different on each of these devices. So floating windows on the OnePlus Open, it's very functional. You can basically drop it anywhere, it stays there. And then you can also minimize it to where it's kind of in your view, but then it snaps, you know, to different sides of the screen quickly. So there's that. And then you can tap it to actually interact with it. And then it's back in this mode where you can drop it anywhere. But when it comes to resizing your floating windows on this device, it's locked into the default ratio of the app itself. So there's mini, standard, and then you can like make it a little bit bigger, or you can drag it to make it full screen. And then when you're full screen, you can drag up to the top and then enter floating windows like that. You can also do that on the front screen as well. I feel like that's a really nice way of getting to floating windows, just like the Nothing Phone 1. I'll show you right here. Just like Nothing Phone 1, you can do the same thing. That's a feature that I really liked on this phone. Enter floating windows very quick and easy. Then you can swipe down and enter back. But yeah, so that's how floating windows works here. You cannot resize it however you want, like you could on the Z Fold 5, which I'll show you just now. And then you can only have one floating window open at a time. So if I go to my Edge panel, tap another app, it opens a floating window and closes the other one. So only one at a time, which means only a maximum of 4 apps on your screen at the same time. And you might be thinking, oh, who uses 4 apps at the same time? But trust me, there's use cases for it, and I do that all the time on my Z Fold 5, and I'll show you later on. So now with the Z Fold 5, let's get to the basics. So the Z Fold 5 also has a taskbar, and there's a little bit more customization with how this one works, I feel like. So taskbar, you can do the same stuff, you know, drag and drop. You can tap your apps to go to those specific apps very quickly, back and forth, you know, just like that. But then you can also do the same thing where you tap and hold and it disappears, tap and hold, it comes back. But on the Z Fold 5, the customization is crazy. So basically the way I have my taskbar set is that when I'm in split screen, my taskbar is gone and it's just a full screen panel. You know, everything is there. That's how I set my taskbar to be, so that it's not in the way. And of course I can swipe up to bring it back when I need it. And then when I'm in one app, my taskbar comes back and it's always there. So that's just how I have it set on the Z Fold 5. You have many options, and then you can also see 4 recent apps, and then you can also have like was this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 apps at the bottom in the taskbar at once. So that's really nice too, versus only 4 on the OnePlus Open. And then another area where the Z Fold 5 kind of excels in multitasking over the OnePlus is that you can't open multiple instances of certain apps. So basically any app that supports this, the Z Fold 5 can do that. So Google Chrome, I can open split screen with Google Chrome and have 2 instances running. Let's see. I can also do 3 instances. So I can basically have unlimited instances or windows of Google Chrome running as like their own kind of separate app, which is pretty cool. Whereas on the OnePlus Open, you cannot do that with any app other than like 3 of the OnePlus specific apps. And then when it comes to gestures, swipe gestures, so you can't swipe down like the OnePlus Open, but you can do the 2 finger up like I said. And then you can also do 2 fingers from the side to enter a different orientation. So I like that. Depending on what you're trying to do, you can quickly just swipe to the side to enter this kind of orientation, or swipe up to enter the top and bottom orientation with the swipes. But mainly I just use the edge panel a lot. Like Z Fold 5's edge panel is amazing. I'll show you what I was talking about. Like you can literally tap and hold and bring it down here. So now it's always there, you know, tap and hold, bring it back, and it's always there. And then you can also customize the color of it, how big it is, how transparent it is. And then there's even, you know, a little bit more customization, say with the way it launches apps. Floating windows on Z Fold 5, like I said, you can literally change it to any shape on your screen. I think this is super useful for depending on what you're doing and depending on what apps you're using. You can do a lot with this. So any shape. And then I also said that you can have as many floating windows on your Z Fold 5. Regardless of if you're split screening or not with 3 apps, you can have like 10 floating windows on the screen at the same time if you want. You can grab apps from the notification shade or when they pop up as notifications and drag them into floating windows or even split screen. So that's just another example of the optimization of Samsung software. And it's very useful for me when things just pop up and I need to respond or I need to open it quickly. I can just grab it and turn it into a floating window and get rid of it. And then the way that each phone handles hiding the floating windows is a bit different. So you can drag the app to the side, and on Samsung, it will show kind of like a little preview of the app, what it is. Then you tap it to bring it back. And yeah, works smoothly. And then on the OnePlus Open, you do the same thing, drag it to the side. And instead of, you know, showing a little preview, it becomes a little tab for the app. And then with this, you can also adjust where it is. So I wish that you could do that for the edge panel, but you can't. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like to have 3 apps on the screen at the same time. Okay, so this is one orientation, but if you tap the bubbles in the middle, you can switch the orientation any way you want, and it works well. Then you can also rotate like this if you need more space in terms of like the horizontal space. And then also on the Z Fold 5, like I was saying, you can literally like adjust to almost any point of adjustment, size adjustment, and it just works really well. You can adjust the top apps. Like this is a lot more flexible. Like this might look weird to you, but when you figure out use cases for these different sizes of the apps on your screen, it works really well. People think like, oh, who uses 3 apps on the screen at the same time? But trust me, this could be calendar, this could be calculator, this can be you know, something that I'm reading, and then down here could be like a game, or even just, you know, something else that I'm looking at. Bring it to this orientation, vertical. Now I could be playing a game like Pokemon Unite, and then I can also have Reddit on this side, YouTube on this side. Now I'm literally like tasking, and it works proper. Like I do this all the time. I'll show you. So I have my app pairs in my edge panel. I'll bring up this one right here. So this, I got Crunchyroll, Reddit, and Pokemon Unite at the bottom. All right, so now I got Naruto running, and then I got Pokemon Unite at the bottom, and I got Reddit right here. This might look weird to you, like it's very tiny or whatever, but this is all you need, man. When you're waiting in between matches and stuff like that, you want to read something quick. This is very visible to me. Like this is arm's length away from me, and I can read it, even if it's this little tiny bubble right here. So I can just scroll on Reddit, you know, read people's comments and stuff like that while watching Naruto. or YouTube or something else like that, you know. If I want it to be a little bit wider, then I can do it like this. And I would have to launch Pokemon Unite in this orientation for it to work properly, because that's how this game functions. Then I can do that, and then this is a little bit better. So the flexibility on this is pretty cool, but at the same time, the flexibility on the OnePlus Open with the canvas layout is also pretty decent. So really these phones can kind of do the same things, but in a little bit different ways. And it comes down to what you prefer. For me, I prefer the way that the Z Fold 5 does it, just because maybe partly because I'm used to it, but partly because I just like the flexibility and the ease of doing things, like edge panels wherever I need it, and I just drag and drop, and then I can dismiss. The way that it functions is intuitive and it allows me to quickly do what I need to do. That's it. I just prefer the way that the Z Fold 5 does it. But the way that the OnePlus Open does multitasking is also really cool and intuitive too. I can see how this is very useful. Like, you can literally do the same thing I just showed on the Z Fold 5, but maybe even more expanded, more information, because you can have 3 full screen apps. So yeah, honestly, this is a cool system for multitasking. Like I said, again, it comes down to preference. So let me know in the comments below what you think about multitasking on these two devices, which ones you prefer, with all things considered. And yeah, I don't think that people should hate on, you know, one or the other. I feel like they both do their job really well. Before I end this video, actually, there's one thing I want to talk about with the canvas. So this is very intuitive, like I said, and it's cool. But there's a reason why I think Samsung software is the best, and it's because of the optimization, how smooth it is, and you know, just how thought out things are. So with this canvas thing, you have to tap this bar every single time at the top of each app in order to like shrink or expand and stuff like that, full screen. You always have to interact with this. On the Z Fold 5, if I want to shrink an app or like, you know, adjust the size of it, I can just drag the dots in the middle. Whereas with this, I have to literally tap and do that. Then I go to this one, I have to do it the same process on each app. Shrink each app one by one, or expand each app one by one. That's kind of an example of how the Z Fold 5 is a little bit more optimized when it comes to the software, and it's just smoother for me. Like, I can boom, 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 and I'm doing whatever I need to do. There is one thing I want to test right now, actually. So I'm gonna save this app here, this app group, and then let's see if it opens in the same orientation that I just saved it in. So let me just close that. So yeah, it did open in the same orientation. I'm going to adjust it now and then save it again. So shrink, shrink. And now let's save the app as a group. Let's save the app group. Oh, it already exists. So I can't save multiples of the same thing in different orientations. Let me just delete it. Okay, go back. And now let's save it like this. They're all shrunk. So open it up and boom, they're in the same orientation. So that's good too. That's good. The Z Fold 5 also does that. So yeah, with the Z Fold 5, it does the same thing where it saves in different orientations. But also on this one, I can have the same apps, but in different orientations saved as app pairs or app groups. So same apps, but it comes up like this. So I think that's pretty cool. It gives you options. When you're saving your app groups, you can also save it to your taskbar, your home screen, or your edge panel. So all from right here. Let me just see. I'm pretty sure it's just the taskbar and the home screen, obviously, because you can only have 4 apps. Actually, it just saves to the home screen by default. You can't even put it in the taskbar from there. When you're editing your edge panel, you can drag it in from your home screen. That's cool. But yeah, only 4 apps. Then the taskbar on this also has the app tray and the recent files. I think it's pretty cool. You can drag and drop in different apps. But on the Z Fold 5, I can basically do that just by, you know, opening up my files app. Boom. So yeah, anyways, to end this video, it really comes down to preference. I think both these phones are really good and they will serve their purpose really well depending on who you are and what you prioritize and what you need. And they are powerhouses. And I talked a lot about multitasking in this video, obviously, but I didn't even mention Samsung DeX, which takes multitasking to a whole nother level with this phone. So there's that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to see more comparisons and different kinds of videos. But yeah, we out. Peace.